Part 1. When peace becomes the highest form of power. There is a kind of power that needs no conquest, no validation, no shouting to be heard. It is calmness. In a world where everyone is swept up in the whirlwind of emotions, competition, anger, arguments, and proving themselves, those who remain as still as a quiet lake are the ones who truly lead, silently and invisibly. The 21st century has no shortage of successful people, but it has very few who aren't controlled by the outside world. They are like rocks in a flowing stream, the waters rush, the winds howl, but their minds remain unmoved. Let's revisit one of the quietest yet most impactful moments in American political history. When Barack Obama, under fierce criticism over domestic policies, chose not to defend or lash out. Instead, he responded with composure, a smile, and a simple thank you. Brief, but the room fell silent. Even the harshest critics paused to listen. That kind of peace isn't luck. It is forged through years of inner work, through unspoken failures, through pain observed rather than reacted to. It is the art of mastering one's inner world. If this speaks to you, even just a little, hold on to that feeling. Because it doesn't come from logic. It comes from a deeper place within, a place still searching for stillness in a world full of noise. And if you feel called to continue this journey, if you long for more moments of silence amid the chaos, subscribe to Buddha Balance, where each video is a meditative step through the landscapes of the mind. If this message feels meaningful, share it as a gift. To a friend in turmoil, or perhaps to your former self. A single like, a quiet share, sometimes that's all it takes to plant the seed of someone else's return to themselves. Part 2. To master emotion is to master destiny. As children, we cried over scraped knees. As adults, we cry over words. Emotions, from subtle disappointments to tidal waves of anger, jealousy, or shame, are part of being human. And yet, therein lies a paradox. We are not our emotions. The Buddha once said, "Feelings arise and pass away. The wise simply observe, they do not identify." And in that observation lies the doorway to freedom. Imagine this. You're walking peacefully down the street. Suddenly, someone bumps into your shoulder and snaps. Watch where you're going. A surge of anger rushes in. Your heart races. Your throat burns. The brain sounds the alarm, you've been insulted. React now. If you respond immediately, you've handed the reins of your inner world to a stranger whose name you don't even know. Worse, you've allowed a biological reflex, shaped by millions of years of evolution, to dictate the fate of your emotional life. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha compared emotions to a wild horse untrained. Unless tethered, it will drag its rider in any direction. The mind is the rider holding the reins, yet most people never learn how to hold them. They let their feelings gallop wildly through the fields of consciousness, destroying everything in their path, leaving behind only ruins. You could live your entire life being controlled, and never realize it. A true story. In 2015, one of the youngest investors in Silicon Valley lost over 70% of his wealth in just 48 hours. Not because of the market, but because of a panicked tweet he posted mid-breakdown. He later admitted, "I didn't lose money because of the market. I lost because I let fear make my decisions. I thought I was being rational, but I was just reacting unconsciously." That's how one unchecked emotion can alter your entire destiny. The truth is, emotions aren't the enemy. Anger isn't bad. Sadness isn't wrong. They only become dangerous when we mistake them for ourselves, when we say, "This is me." It's like a child screaming in a room. You can calm them, listen, even let them cry it out. But if you become the screaming child, you lose your ability to guide yourself. Emotions are guests, not the host. Poet Rumi once wrote, Each morning is a new guest house. Joy, sorrow, jealousy, they all knock. Don't chase them away. But don't let them stay forever either. The Buddha taught, when an emotion arises, simply know an emotion is arising. And in that moment, the anger is no longer you. It's just a passing cloud. And you are the sky. Why did the greatest leaders in history, from Gandhi, Mandela, to Marcus Aurelius, all say the same thing? Reaction is a choice, not a command. Gandhi was beaten, imprisoned, insulted, but never retaliated. He said, "If I let hatred live inside me, I cannot lead anyone." They weren't emotionless. They had simply trained their emotions like a sword. Drawn only when necessary, never flailed in panic. That sword is within you, too. But it's still sheathed, waiting for you to forge it. Through meditation, through mindfulness, through the sacred pause when your heart is pounding, and you ask, does this feeling need to act? Or can I let it pass, like wind across a mountain? A person who masters their emotions is not someone who is always calm. They're someone who knows when to be calm, and when to act. When to speak, and when to stay silent. They don't fight their emotions. They look at them with love, and with stillness. And that presence, that is the first step to mastering your destiny. Which part of this story felt like you? Maybe you've been impulsive and regretted it. Or maybe you're just learning to pause, breathe, and not react. It doesn't matter where you are on the path. What matters is that you are awake. And awakening is the greatest power a human being can have. If you wish to continue this journey with me, where each chapter uncovers a deeper layer of the mind, of your emotional wounds, and of the still mountains within you, subscribe to Buddha Balance. Each video is a meditative reflection crafted for your path. A single share, a quiet like, might be the seed of peace someone else desperately needs. Art 3, Silence, the language of the strong. Silence. Not avoidance. Not ignorance. Not surrender. But the strongest declaration of inner strength. In the thousands of words we speak each day, very few truly need to be said. The rest are reflex, defense, the habit of filling empty space. But those who have journeyed inward are not afraid of silence. They know that true power doesn't lie in saying more, but in not needing to say anything at all. Once, as the Buddha was walking for alms, a man came up and hurled insults at him. The Buddha didn't respond. When the man grew tired, breathless, exhausted, the Buddha quietly asked, "If someone offers you a gift, but you don't accept it, to whom does it belong?" The man replied, "To the one who offered it." The Buddha said, "Then those words, I do not accept." Silence is not passive. It is the active choice not to play the ego's game. In the West, Roman emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Do not react quickly. Do not respond immediately. The strength of the wise is letting thoughts settle before turning them into actions." Think back. Have you ever said something just because you couldn't stand the silence? Spoken too much just to feel seen? Reacted only to later whisper to yourself, "I wish I had said nothing." We've all been there. But the awakened ones learn to stay silent before their own words cause harm. During a high-stakes meeting at Apple, Steve Jobs once silenced an entire boardroom, simply by not saying a word. After hearing an ambitious, data-packed proposal from executives, he said neither yes nor no. He just stared. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Then he stood and said quietly, "I think you're trying too hard to prove something. When an idea is truly powerful, it doesn't need to shout." He walked out. The proposal was dropped. Not because it was bad, but because it wasn't quiet enough. Real silence is never weak. It forces others to confront their own minds. It makes them wonder, what is he thinking? What is she feeling? In that vast space, you don't just hold your ground. You own the room. The talkative make noise. The quiet leave impact. But those who know when to be silent create depth. In Buddhism, there is a kind of silence called noble stillness. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of craving, anger, and ignorance in every response. Once, Ananda asked the Buddha, "Why do you remain silent to certain questions?" The Buddha replied, "Because some questions are not worth answering. And silence is the most intelligent response." Thought balloon: a true story from history. In 1979, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat visited Israel, a nation locked in hostility with his own for decades. At a press conference, a reporter asked, "Do you believe Jews deserve to live?" A provocative, offensive question. Sadat said nothing. He looked at the journalist, not angry, not mocking, just deeply silent. The room fell quiet. Then he said, "Jews are human. Just like me. Just like you. Your question speaks more about you than it does about me." That is the power of not speaking too soon. Silence doesn't mean you don't know. It means you understand not everything requires a reaction. A true seeker has no need to prove, argue, or win with words. Because they know, if you need to use words to win, you've already lost. I don't need to be the winner in your story. I only need to remain anchored in my own peace. A Tibetan meditation student once said, "We live in an age where everyone is trying to be heard. But the ones we listen to most are those who speak least. Because their presence speaks louder than words. Because their depth quiets others. Because they're not chasing validation. They've already found it within." If you've ever felt like you're talking too much, yet still not being understood, maybe it's time to try something else. Sit down. Be still. And let your energy speak for you. If this reflection made you pause, or feel even a fragile moment of peace, don't let it slip away. Hold on to it by subscribing to Buddha Balance, where each message is a sacred pause just for you. And if you know someone who needs to relearn the art of silence, share this video with them. Say no more. Let stillness lead. Part 4. Freeing yourself from failure and public opinion. It's not criticism that hurts you. It's not failure that breaks you. It's believing they define you. Some people turn back after a single harsh comment. Some dig a grave for themselves after just one failure. Some live their entire lives trying to please others and call it success. This world doesn't lack trophies. It lacks people who dare to live honestly with their wounds. In Buddhism, attachment to praise and blame is known as the craving for name and fame. And reputation, whether good or bad, is still a chain. If you don't see it for what it truly is, those controlled by public opinion are prisoners. Not behind bars, but in a cage far tighter. The fear of judgment. A real example. Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast in US history, once called the goddess of the Olympics. In 2021, she shocked the world by withdrawing from the Tokyo Olympic Games mid-competition. the sports world erupted. She's weak. She's unprofessional. She betrayed her nation's expectations. But she responded calmly. I choose my mental health over medals. I don't perform to please others. No one applauded at the time. But months later, experts in sports medicine and psychology called her a pioneer. Because the first to walk out of the mold will always be stoned. But they pave the road for others to walk with bare feet. There's a line from the Diamond Sutra. All things with form are illusions. Fame, success, failure, they're all temporary. The wise don't measure themselves by the eyes of the world. And they don't measure the world through their own ego. They step back from public opinion. Like a boat steady in rough seas. Not swayed by waves, nor inflated by the wind. But what about failure? We're not afraid of failing. We're afraid of being seen as failures. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of silent smirks. Afraid that no one will believe in us anymore, even ourselves. But this only happens if you let failure become your identity. In Buddhism, suffering doesn't come from the situation, but from identifying with it. People don't suffer because they failed. They suffer because they believe they are failures. But the awakened person, when they fall, they stand. When they lose, they observe. When they're misunderstood, they smile. And when they hurt, they don't say, I am this pain. They say, this feeling is present, and I am breathing with it. I failed, that doesn't mean I am a failure. I was criticized, that doesn't mean I must accept it. I was praised, that doesn't make me better than anyone. Like a meditator walking through the forest, unmoved by birdsong, undisturbed by wolves' howls. Because their direction is clear, and each step is grounded. Ask yourself, how many times have you quit just because others didn't believe in you? How many times have you overworked just to earn applause, while abandoning yourself? How many times have you feared starting over, because what will people say? If you live for applause, then when it stops, you stop too. But a spiritual seeker doesn't need an audience, doesn't need cheerleaders, only needs to know, I'm walking the right path. At a Dharma talk in Dharamsala, the Dalai Lama was once asked, aren't you afraid of being misunderstood? He smiled gently. Some things need time. Some things need no explanation. And some things only need to be known by oneself. You don't need to win at life through the eyes of others. You only need not betray yourself in silence. Remember, praise doesn't raise you. Criticism doesn't lower you. You only rise when your mind rises beyond external validation. You are truly free when no one's approval defines your existence. And you are truly unbreakable. Not because you've never fallen, but because you know, I am not the fall. I am the one who stood back up. If you're going through a hard time, being judged, misunderstood, even rejected by your own self, this message is for you. No one gets to define you but you. No one controls you unless you hand them the key. If this gave you a deeper breath, or even a moment of quiet reflection, then healing has already begun. Don't let this pass like another piece of content. Hold it close. And if you can, share it with someone who might need to hear this. If you wish to walk further into the inner journey, subscribe to Buddha Balance. Not because you must, but because you deserve a place to return to when your heart feels the storm. Part 5, Inner Discipline, the Foundation of Freedom. There's a paradox many young people don't realize. Freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It only comes when you have the discipline not to be ruled by yourself. The ego loves freedom the way a child loves candy. But eat too much, and it rots your teeth. The same is true for the mind. When untrained, the mind will chase every craving, every emotional impulse. Then turn around and blame you for what it made you do. A mind without discipline is a vulnerable mind. It reacts without checking. It distracts without reason. It procrastinates even when you know time is slipping away. Consider the lives of truly great people. Not the ones online, but the ones who lived it. Nelson Mandela wrote in his journal every morning, for nearly 30 years in prison. Viktor Frankl, the psychologist who survived Auschwitz, meditated mentally each night while corpses surrounded him. Kobe Bryant, NBA legend, showed up at the gym at 4 a.m. from age 16 until retirement. They may have lived in hell, but they never let their minds fall with them. That didn't come from talent. It came from inner discipline. In Buddhism, inner discipline isn't just rigid rule following or being good. It's daily training to keep the mind from being dragged by greed, anger, and delusion. Precepts are fences for the mind. Concentration is the shade. Wisdom is the light. But without discipline, the fence collapses, the shade disappears, the light loses direction. Discipline is a profound form of love. You wouldn't let your child have everything they want, because you know it would destroy them. So why let your mind do whatever it wants? To rage when it wants? To quit when it feels like it? Discipline doesn't kill emotion. It gives emotion the space to bloom properly. No one appreciates a song where the notes wander anywhere. It's structure, it's timing, that makes music beautiful. In the same way, discipline makes freedom possible. One who can't master their mind will be ruled by others. But one who disciplines their mind cannot be shaken by the world. At a talk at MIT, Canadian monk Ajahn Sona said, "I once meditated in a forest where black bears roamed at night. One night, I heard a growl, a bear came close to my tent. I didn't run. Why? Because if you run, it chases. If you sit, it senses no threat. What kept me still wasn't courage. It was the discipline from 10,000 hours of meditation, which trained my mind not to react on instinct." So why is inner discipline so rare? Because it requires something this era is losing: steadfastness. We live in an age of instant feedback, instant pleasure, endless options. One tap, and you're entertained. One swipe, and you change course. That's why we've forgotten how to be patient even with ourselves. But the inner world is like an ancient forest. It doesn't open to tourists. It only opens to those who return day after day. Step by step, breath by breath. Even when nothing seems to happen. In the Dhammapada, it is written, "To conquer thousands in battle is nothing compared to conquering yourself." Mastering the self, that is the greatest victory. Not everyone sees results when they begin inner training. That's why so many quit. But you can start with the smallest things. Sit in stillness for 10 minutes each morning, instead of reaching for your phone. Recognize a rising anger, without letting it spill. Do what you said you would, even when no one is watching. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you lay another brick in the foundation of freedom. No one becomes strong without discipline. No mind becomes unshakable without being forged in silence. If it feels hard, if you've quit before, that's okay. What matters isn't how far you've gone. It's whether you're still walking or turning away. If there's just one thing you do today, keep one small promise to yourself. Not for anyone else, just so your heart knows. I'm still here. And I'm still holding myself. If this message feels worthy of your next step, let Buddha Balance be your quiet companion on the journey. Subscribe, share, and save this message as a gentle reminder. Freedom is not the destination. It is each step you take without betraying your own soul. Part 6. Letting go of what you can't control, like water embracing stone. Humans don't suffer because life happens as it is. We suffer because we wish it were different. We suffer because someone left. Because plans didn't work out. Because outcomes didn't match our hopes. But in truth, we don't suffer from reality, we suffer from our resistance to it. Buddhism calls this dukkha, suffering not caused by the world, but by clinging in the mind. No one can make you suffer unless you hold on. And no one can save you unless you choose to let go. Imagine you are a stream of water. You're flowing down a mountain and suddenly, a large rock blocks your path. You have a choice. Crash into the rock and shatter. Or do what water does, flow around it. Gently. Patiently. Without resistance. And over time, the water will wear down the stone. Not by force, but through unresisting persistence. One of the most beautiful images in Buddhist scripture is: water is not stained by the lotus. The lotus grows in mud, but does not smell of it. Water embraces the lotus, yet holds none of its color, scent, or shape. The awakened person is the same. They embrace life fully, without clinging to what they cannot control. Once, a student asked the Thai meditation master Ajahn Chah, "I'm always disappointed because life doesn't go how I want. How do I stop suffering?" The master pointed to a glass on the table and said, "Do you see this cup? I see it as already broken. Not because I'm pessimistic, but because I know it will break, maybe today, maybe next year. That's why I treasure it while it's whole. And when it breaks, I smile." Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means resetting your expectations to where they belong. Letting go is saying, I can't control the outcome, but I can control how I walk. Only when you release the illusion of control do you find real peace. In Japanese Zen, there's a concept called mushin. No mind, but not without feeling. It's the state of a mind untroubled by grasping. Like a mirror, it reflects everything, but clings to nothing. A real story from the world. In 2004, mountaineer Joe Simpson fell into a deep crevasse in the Andes. He broke his leg. No way out. Rescue was impossible. As hope vanished, Joe says he let go of the desire to be rescued. He became completely present with each breath. It was only then that he spotted a narrow crack, and over 4 days, he crawled his way to life. In his book Touching the Void, he writes, "I didn't survive because I was strong. I survived because I stopped screaming, 'Why me?' and began asking, 'So what now? What do I do next?'" We can't make others stay. We can't control the weather. We can't force the world to love us. But we can learn to let go without falling apart. Letting go is the skill of the strong. It is a conscious choice. To no longer tie yourself to things that were never yours to hold. In the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha said, "Letting go is not loss, it is freedom." Like releasing a rope that's cutting into your skin. It's not defeat. It's saving yourself. If you're clinging to something that has already drifted far away, or holding on to something you should have set down long ago, maybe the last thing you need to grasp is your own hand. Let your grip soften. And let the wind carry away what no longer belongs to you. Don't fear that letting go makes you weak. It is clinging that breaks us, not surrender. You are like water. You don't need to control everything. You just need to flow and trust that. Through stone, through fire, through darkness, you will still remain your purest self. If this message helped you breathe deeper, feel lighter, it's because you just did something very hard. You accepted that nothing is ever fully in your hands. And it's in that moment that peace begins to touch your heart. If you want to continue this journey, subscribe to Buddha Balance. As a quiet commitment to yourself, I have begun to learn how to let go. And if you know someone struggling with loss, resistance, or pain, share this message with them. Not as advice, but as a quiet reminder, they are not alone. Part 7. Transcending a noisy age through full presence. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from labor, but from having to exist in a world that constantly screams at you. Social media, news, unread emails, missed calls, advertisements, hundreds of images and sounds clawing at your attention every second. They don't just take your time. They're stealing your presence, your very experience of being alive. You are there, but not really there. Sitting with your loved ones, but your mind is in your phone. Eating a beautiful meal, but your thoughts are analyzing yesterday. Basking in sunlight, but your mind is fearing tomorrow. This era doesn't kill you. It just pulls you away from yourself, bit by bit, until you no longer feel that you're alive. In the Anapanasati Sutta, Discourse on Mindful Breathing, the Buddha taught, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Such a simple line, yet it is the key to returning to the home of life. This moment, and only this moment. We cannot defeat a noisy age by shouting louder. We can only transcend it by living deeper. Not deep in philosophy, but deep in presence. A real-world example. In a lecture at Harvard University, Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once asked, "Are you drinking your tea or your anxiety?" The hall went silent. He recalled, "Once I had tea with a well-known professor, but he wasn't really drinking tea." As he lifted the cup, he checked emails, looked at his watch, and scribbled notes. He didn't drink tea. He drank stress. He drank the future. He drank insecurity. Meanwhile, the tea was right there, warm, gentle, inviting. We don't lack beautiful experiences. We simply lack the presence to notice that beauty is already happening. A child's touch, a breeze at sunset, a glance from someone who loves you. Each can become sacred if you are truly there. The world won't stop being loud. It will keep throwing news, drama, images, demands, and expectations at you. But you have a quiet superpower, one that few still use. The power to turn inward. The power to pause. The power to choose not to react to everything. In Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Master Shunryu Suzuki wrote, "The ordinary mind is the Buddha's mind." But ordinary doesn't mean careless. It means being fully present with whatever you are doing. When washing dishes, just wash. When eating, just eat. When breathing, just breathe. Nothing more needed. On the spiritual path, there is a subtle turning point often missed. From seeking peace to realizing peace never left. When you return to this moment, you'll see Nothing more is needed. No one else needs to be. Nothing is missing. Presence is the shortest path back to life. It is also the only way to free yourself from the depression of the past and the anxiety of the future. The past may be dark. The future may be stormy. But the present, however small, is always the door to light. Try this right now. Place your hand on your chest. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. No thoughts needed. Just know you are alive. Right here. Right now. You don't need to prove anything to the world. You just need to remember how to be with yourself. If this stirred something inside you, a quiet echo, a subtle resonance, don't scroll past it like another passing emotion. Hold it. Practice it. Be here. If you wish to continue this path inward, subscribe to Buddha Balance, where each video is a meditative step on your journey home. And if you know someone lost in the noise, someone disconnected from themselves, share this with them. Not to preach, but to take their hand and return together. Part 8. The Power of Stillness and Transformation Through Silence. People often fear silence. They call it emptiness, disconnection, dead space. But Buddhism sees silence differently. Silence isn't the absence between two sounds. It's the space where truth quietly reveals itself, once everything else has stepped aside. There is a kind of energy you cannot summon through words. You cannot strategize your way into it. You cannot manipulate your way to it. It's the quiet strength of someone no longer shaken by the noise of life. Zen master Ajahn Brahm once said, "The more you talk, the more your mind scatters. The more silent you are, the more your mind gathers. And in that gathering, energy grows, like a mountain silently rising from the earth." Have you ever entered a room where someone didn't speak, but everyone felt them? Have you ever met someone who didn't explain anything, but whose presence made you feel safe, understood, and seen? That's not charisma. That's not eloquence. That's the power of stillness. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, to avoid harsh speech is practice. To know and not to speak is wisdom. But to remain at peace in silence, that is the path. The silence we speak of is not just quiet lips. It is inner stillness. When the mind stops resisting, when the ego stops shouting, when you no longer need to be right, to be heard, to be seen, just to feel like you exist. A haunting international story. In 1993, during a private meeting between US President Bill Clinton and Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, the security team was tense. Thich Nhat Hanh refused to shake hands, refused to speak in front of the press. He simply bowed gently, smiled, and remained silent. After the meeting, Clinton told his aide, "I've never met anyone who could speak to me so deeply without saying a single word." Stillness is the language of someone who has seen through the illusion of all things. The more a person needs to argue, prove, or be affirmed, the more wounds they still carry inside. But those who have walked through the darkest valleys of the mind don't need to say much anymore. I used to scream so the world would hear me. But the more I screamed, the quieter the world became. When I finally sat down, breathed, and fell silent, the world began to listen. A young meditation student in Bhutan. We live in a time where everyone speaks, but few truly listen. The more noise there is, the more we need someone who can hold stillness. The more opinions there are, the more we need someone whose mind doesn't waver. The more explanations arise, the more we need someone who simply is, without judgment. Silence doesn't make you disappear. It makes you appear more fully. Because you're no longer hidden behind fogs of speech, defense, comparison, or performance. You are not your words. You are not the content you post. You are the space behind all of that. And that space can only be felt in true silence. Practicing silence is how you return control to yourself. You don't need to react immediately. You don't need to answer every question. You don't need to chase every urge to prove something. Sometimes, a single breath is the most complete answer. If you feel like the world is demanding you to speak, explain, respond, maybe what you really need is a pause. A space where you are no one. Where you don't need to become anything. Just presence. Like a stream flowing through the forest. Not loud, not promoted, not recognized. Yet quietly cooling the mountains. If this message made you pause, made you breathe deeper, then maybe you just reconnected with something you forgot. You don't need to add anything to be worthy of being here. You only need to be here, in stillness. If you wish to go deeper on this journey of stillness, subscribe to Buddha Balance. As a silent commitment, I choose to return. And if you know someone who's been speaking too much, because they're hurting too deeply, send them this piece. Not to convince, not to explain, but as an invitation to return to the space between two breaths. No words needed. Silence will guide. Part 9. A mind like water, touching true freedom. A mind like water. It's not just a beautiful metaphor. It's an ancient truth, echoed through spiritual traditions across East and West. It is the state of one who is no longer ruled by appearances, emotions, expectations, or judgment. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "A calm mind is like a still lake, able to reflect the moon and stars, but never clinging to them. Water never fears being reshaped, because it never tries to hold any one form. Pour it into a cup, it becomes the cup. Pour it into a bowl, it becomes the bowl. Spill it on the ground, it sinks in. Throw it into fire, it evaporates, then becomes cloud. It doesn't fight. It doesn't resist. Yet it never disappears. And that is the nature of true freedom. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want, whenever you want. True freedom is nothing outside can define you. No feeling inside can bind you. You are not your anger. Not the criticism you received. Not your past wounds. You are the one witnessing it all. Silently. Without attachment. A true story. In 2008, Iranian writer Marina Nemat was imprisoned and tortured for writing the truth. For 3 years, she was beaten, isolated, but never broken. She wrote, "I imagined myself as water, slipping through whips, insults, and fear. Not because I was strong, but because I didn't want to respond the way they expected. I chose to keep my mind like a stream. And that saved me." When she was finally released, the first thing she did was sit silently for 5 minutes beneath the sun. Because for 3 years, she hadn't seen light. But she had never let the light inside her go out. A mind like water. Doesn't shatter when hit by stones. Doesn't harden in drought. Doesn't fear change, loss, or misunderstanding. Because it no longer wants to become anything. It only wants to be. In Chinese Zen, there is a concept called Wunian, no thought. It doesn't mean having no thoughts. It means thoughts arise and fall, like waves on a shore. But the ocean within stays undisturbed. A mind like water isn't free from pain. It simply doesn't resist pain. And in that non-resistance, pain loses its control. Such people live in the world, but are never swallowed by it. They love without clinging. They lose without falling. They succeed without pride. Because they know everything is only a reflection on the surface of water. And the water remains water, even as the sky above it changes. If you've ever been overly affected by others, feared the gaze of the world, been swayed by praise or blame, reacted, then regretted, know this: you're not weak. You just haven't yet returned to the water within you. Each time you don't react immediately, you are being soft like water. Each time you choose stillness, you are stepping back to preserve clarity. Each time you refuse to let the world reshape you, you are stepping closer to freedom. You don't need to control everything. You only need to know who you are in the midst of everything. And when you truly understand that, you'll realize no one can drag you down anymore, because you have become water. If this reflection made you pause, soften, or breathe deeper, it means your mind is beginning to melt the old ice. Don't let this pass as just another beautiful moment. Hold it. Live it. If you wish to continue this journey, where each part brings you deeper into awakening, subscribe to Buddha Balance. Not because you need to be ready, not because you need to be perfect, but simply because you're returning and continuing. And if you know someone searching for real freedom, not out there, but deep within, send them this message. A small wave, a soft stream, a beginning. Part 10, The Journey Inward, Not Outward. As a child, you thought freedom meant running wherever you pleased. As you grew, you thought freedom was when no one could control you. But as you mature, you begin to realize true freedom is when nothing inside you controls you anymore. Not other people, not circumstances, not praise or criticism, not past wounds, not even that doubting voice in your head. It's when you finally sit down and no longer feel the need to become anything. Not better, not more impressive, not more worthy. Just yourself, with full understanding, compassion, and peace. When I stopped trying to become someone, I finally met myself. A meditation student in Kyoto once wrote, "You've walked a long path. From being ruled by emotion to observing it. From craving validation to standing alone. From living for others to breathing in your own rhythm. You've learned silence, surrender, discipline, stillness, and how to be soft, like water. Now, there is nowhere else to go. Because where you're standing is already the threshold of awakening." In one of his final teachings, the Buddha said, "Everything that needs to be known, I have taught. Now, light the lamp, and walk your path. No one can walk it for you. No video, no teaching, no matter how wise, can live life for you. You are the path. You are the walker. You are the light. And one last thing, small, but please remember. You are not broken. You have only forgotten who you are. If you've ever cried in silence, felt alone in a crowded room, felt too tired to go on. Know this. That wasn't your ending. It was your turning point. The place where your journey inward begins. No one else needs to see your healing. Only you need to know. Every breath you hold instead of yelling is a victory. Every time you choose stillness over ego is progress. Every morning you sit, even for 5 minutes, you're already living more deeply than most. No one else needs to know. Just you and the universe, and that's enough. If this 10-part journey touched something deeply personal in you, let it become your silent practice. Reread it when you're weary. Return to it when you fall. Share it if you know someone searching for their way home. Not to preach, but to pass on light. And if you wish to go even further, in silence, in the spirit of the Dharma, subscribe to Buddha Balance. You don't need to watch every day. You don't need to interact. Just let it be a shelter, a quiet place for your heart. Whenever the storms of life come. Now, take one deep breath. And as you exhale, whisper to yourself like a sacred mantra, I have returned. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. May you keep walking, breath by breath, in the light of your own being.